friends, since we can't be together every day, I thought I would start reading a story to you guys. I'm going to read one chapter of this book called Pugs of the Frozen North every day, and then I'll post a new chapter every day when I post your lesson on Google Classroom. You don't have to do this. This is optional, but if you want to hear the story with our whole class, you're welcome to tune in and listen every day. Pugs of the Frozen North. Chapter 1. Winter came in the night like a white sheet laid over the world. It came so coldly and so fast that the waves of the ocean froze as they rolled. The good ship Lucky Star froze with them, trapped tight in the suddenly solid sea. Shen, the cabin boy, the youngest member of the crew, stirred in his sleep as the sounds of rippling and splashing faded into frozen silence. He snuggled deeper under the covers, trying to keep warm. Into the silence came other noises. First, the creaking of timber as the ice tightened its grip upon. You can see there's a ship there, and all the ice. As the ice tightened its grip on the old ship's sides. Then the voice of Captain Jeggings bellowed, "All hands on deck!" The crew bumbled, blinking from their bunks. Able Seaman Bo, Mungbin, the ship's cook, and Shen. They stumbled out on deck and stared at the frozen waves which reared up all around them. "Don't just stand there," shouted Captain Jeggings, hauling an icy rope. "Get us out of here!" The rope snapped in his hands with a sound like breaking glass. The Lucky Star groaned and quivered as the ice clenched tighter. "What will we do?" asked Shen. But Captain Jeggings didn't know. Neither did able Seaman Bo. Neither did Mungbin. They'd weathered storms and sat out still waters, but they'd never seen a sea like this before. Creak! Crunch! Big tusks of ice pushed the planks apart and pierced the Lucky Star's sides. Slosh! Gurgle! Cold black water that hadn't frozen yet came swirling in. The ship sagged and the icicles that decked their rigging tinkled cheerfully. But Captain Jeggings couldn't see anything to be cheerful about. "The cargo!" he shouted. "We must save the cargo!" All summer long, the Lucky Star had been cruising from port to port, selling this and buying that. 2,000 chunky knit sweaters from the Isle of Arran, a second-hand snowmobile, and 66 pugs. Pugs are a type of little dog. Captain Jeggings had said those tiny little dogs would sell like hot pies. Now, down in the leaking hold, they let out a terrible howling as cold sea sloshed around their paws. "The dogs!" shouted Shen. "We must save the dogs!" You can see the little pugs down there in the water. Mungbin and Bo went running down the steep stairway that led to the cargo holds and came struggling back up with the crates of sweaters. Captain Jeggings hauled the snowmobile over the ship's side. Meanwhile, Shen turned over the boxes where more pugs were sleeping. The tiny dogs raced up on deck and jumped off the Lucky Star's sides into the ice. Shen had heard people talk about rats leaving a sinking ship before, but he'd never heard of pugs leaving a freezing one. There's a first time for everything, he thought. You can see here the pugs are just jumping off the side of the sinking ship. He dragged the sack that held their leashes and harnesses up onto the deck and threw it after them. The Lucky Star shuddered again, squeezing in the teeth of the ice. Planks popped out of the deck. The mast trembled like a chopped tree. Captain Jeggings shouted as he jumped over the side. He's shouting right here. He said, "Abandon ship! Women and captains first!" But Shen thought of something else that needed to be saved. "The dog food! It's still on board!" "It'll have to stay there then," yelled Bo, jumping down into the ice with Mungbin. Shen passed the smallest of the pugs down to them and then jumped after them. With a final heave, the ice crushed the old ship flat. Shen and the pugs stood and shivered while Captain Jeggins and the others got the snowmobile ready. Its engine coughed and snarled as they started it up. Into its trailer they piled the crates of cargo, but there was no room for the dogs. "We can't leave them behind," wailed Shen. "Well, we can't stay here with them," said Captain Jeggins. "This ice might melt as quickly as it came. And then where would we be? Way out at sea without a ship under us? Awkward." He had told Shen that the 66 pugs would sell like hot pies. But what he meant to say is that they would sell in hot pies. His aunt ran a pie shop at home, and she was always looking for new ingredients. They were by far the least valuable bit of cargo, so he had decided to leave them behind. "Maybe they'll follow us," said Shen. He climbed aboard the snowmobile with Bo and Mung being in the captain. "Come on, doggies," he called to the pugs. The dogs looked up at him, heads to one side. Their hot breath steamed and smoldered in the cold air like the breath of 66 tiny dragons. The snowmobile set off with a roar. The tower of crates in its trailer teetered and swayed as the snowmobile weaved its way between the frozen waves. The pugs sat where they were and watched it go. "Come on!" shouted Shen. They didn't seem to understand. So they're all driving away, and Shen wants the pugs to follow. They're just sitting there. "Wait for me, Captain," he yelled, and he jumped down off the snowmobile. The frozen waves were slippier than the hills of the glass. He slithered over to them back to where the pugs sat, and when they saw Shen coming, their tails began to wag and they ran to meet him. "Come on, doggies," he said, patting 66 small round heads and getting licked by 66 small rough tongues. "You've got to follow Captain Jeggins." So here's Shen trying to convince the pugs to follow the captain. He looked so worried. But when he turned to look for the snowmobile, it was nowhere to be seen. Either Captain Jeggins hadn't heard when Shen shouted for him to wait, or he decided that waiting for Shen and 66 pugs wasn't worth it. The end. Well, not the end, just the end of chapter 1. Tune in tomorrow and I will read you chapter 2.